Hello, everyone. My name is Hannah Lupe, and I'm the managing editor here at Young Adulting Review. Today, I have the honor of chatting with Nafiza Azad, author of books for young adults, including The Candle and the Flame, Wild Ones, and Road of the Lost. Thank you so much, Nafiza, for taking the time to answer some questions today. I am so excited to have you here.
I'm super excited to be here. So let's get going.
Woo, awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey to publishing?
Okay, so my name is Nafiza Azad, and that's obvious. I was published, I believe, 2019. Time means nothing nowadays. It's like I was lucky because I got my debut before the pandemic, and I know that people who published or debuted during the pandemic, that was a whole different affair. But I have been writing forever. My first few words were poetry that was composed while I was, even before I started going to school. So there were like really fun affairs like cows go moo. Because I live in a farm, a sugarcane farm in Fiji. So when I was growing up, there weren't many books around. I mean, we had one library that was in the town about 7 kilometers away, and they would only allow you to take two books out at a time. But there was no TV, so most of the majority of our time was either spent reading or telling stories to each other.
Mhm.
And somehow reading, I was a voracious reader. I still am a voracious reader, and after that, it just was a natural progression to start writing.
Mhm.
And so initially being the daughter of immigrants and being an immigrant myself, the focus was on getting a job that was stable, right? You know, your pay is secure and you will get paid every, I don't know, month.
Yeah.
But somehow I ended up, I remember I was actually doing a pre-med and I was doing biology in school, and I was not even doing human biology, I was doing plant biology, and I was sitting in class and the teacher was talking about mycelia from about fungus, and I'm thinking, what am I doing here? I don't care about fungi. And then I had this epiphany, so I went home without telling anyone, without any prior discussion with my parents. I changed my major to English, and all of a sudden my GPA just went boom, and I was like, well, at least I know myself. I can write papers, but I can't use a microscope.
Wow.
It was wild. Yeah, and then because I had been writing, but my major, like my dominant medium, the genre of writing was poetry. I used to write poetry a lot, and I didn't think I had the discipline to write prose.
Mhm.
But then I got the opportunity to take a class, children's writing at UBC. So I had been taking classes before. I'd taken some at Douglas College, but never with any serious intent because I never saw people like myself as authors. It
Mhm.
was sort of like this wild, far-fetched dream. But took creative writing for children at UBC, and then I found out that I could write an actual book for my thesis for MACL, Master of Arts in Children's Literature. And I was like, wow. So I wrote a book, and then I thought, well, I have written the book. Maybe I should try getting it published.
Mhm.
I didn't take the class with Maggie where she teaches how to write, Maggie DeVries, where she teaches how to write query letters and stuff. So I
Mhm.
was going at it entirely blind.
Mhm.
And then one night, I was talking to my friends who are also writers, and somebody told me about DV Pit, which is Diverse Voices Pitch on Twitter. And I thought, well, I might as well try. I have a book. So I
Mhm.
tried it. And this was 1 week before my thesis was due to be published on the website. So I
Mhm.
needed a deferral, but I needed a reason for my deferral.
Mhm.
So I had 1 week to either get an agent and tell them that I wanted to try getting my book published or get my book published. And, you know, the chances of the book getting published become lower.
Mhm.
So it was a success. I got my agent. If we usually people take 2 weeks, I agreed to her after 2 days, like the weekend. She read pretty fast, and so we sent the book out on submission after I had revised it again, and then it didn't sell. And
Mhm.
that was the time around 2016 where Trump won
Mhm.
American elections, and you know, even though we're Canadians, we're still so affected by their foolishness.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
I started writing. I needed something, I needed some place to escape. So I wrote The Candle and the Flame, and I created Noor, which was basically wish fulfillment. All the wonderful things I could think of, I put in that city. And that actually sold. I was really, really surprised that it did, but at the same time, really happy that it did. And then that's been the very short, um, condensed version of my journey to publishing.
Wow, what a journey. That's amazing. I remember I took a course this year with Eric Myers.
Hmm.
He brought in Road of the Lost, and that's when I learned that you were a UBC alumni. And I was like, oh my God, we have to get Nafiza on Young Adulting. That's fantastic. Wow. Um, so the next question is, your writing is featured in the recently released anthology, Magic Has No Borders, which sounds amazing, by the way, which boasts a collection of magical South Asian tales. Can you tell us about your experience working on this project with a group of such amazing writers?
Definitely. I was really thrilled when Sona approached me about the anthology because even though I am of Indian descent, I am from Fiji,
Mhm.
very far from India.
Okay.
My ancestors were indentured laborers brought to Fiji from by the British a
Mhm.
long time ago, and so growing up in the diaspora, it's really interesting because if we don't even speak the same kind of like Hindi that they speak.
Mhm.
Our Hindi is an amalgamation of all sorts of dialects and Indian languages all just smooshed together with some words borrowed from Fijian and some words borrowed from English.
Mhm.
So oftentimes navigating different identities, different types of identities becomes a common thing to do for me, especially in my books. I've noticed that my characters do a lot of navigation with their identities too.
Mhm.
And when Sona approached me and she asked, initially she said that she wanted me to write about some a story inspired by some either a historical character or someone who other people know. And I thought about it and I said, well, I am not very familiar with the Indian mythology and whatnot, but I had a really wonderful grandma I can write about.
Mhm.
So the story I wrote follows a group of girls, granddaughters, who are called the Noisies because they are all very noisy and their names all start with N, and the grandmother. And what they do is they cook. It's a food magic. And so I had a lot of fun recreating some of my afternoons that I spent with my grandmother on the sugarcane farm in Fiji. And it was a wild experience. I got to go into the characters' minds, and it was just a lot of fun to show people what it would be like to spend an afternoon at my house in Fiji. So yeah, it was a great experience, and I hope people read the book, read all those stories because all the other stories are really amazing as well, and see that magic can breathe anywhere. It doesn't need to come from a certain point, can breathe globally.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of my favorite themes. I love stories about food magic. That's one of my favorite, you know, things I look out for. And I haven't gotten the book yet, but I am going to because when I was researching for this interview, I realized this book was a thing, and I was like, I'm sold. I love folklore tales. So yeah, right up my alley. So our next question is from one of our reviewers, Kiara, and she's currently in the process of reviewing Road of the Lost. Um, and she was wondering, she found that there was a sense of familiarity and authenticity to Croy's experiences as a teenager, and she was wondering what connections you drew between Road of the Lost and your own experiences of growing up.
Okay, so the thing is, even though I wrote Cree's story when I was an adult, she as a character has been with me ever since I was a child. So
Mm,
as I grew, so did she. And as I experienced things like, the first crush, puberty, like the whole process of your body changing, you're like, what's happening to me? She did so too. So if the experiences sound true, it's because she in a way experienced them through me.
Yeah.
So I was really happy to see that they ring authentic, because they are authentic. For she seems more like a character, like she is a commentary in my mind all the time. Even when I'm writing other books, she's there, is judging, passing silent judgment on, like, what are you doing?
That's fantastic. It's like an imaginary friend almost that's been.
Exactly.
That's awesome. And your upcoming project, Writing in Color, features 14 diverse authors who share their advice and experiences as writers of color. What advice could you pass on to emerging writers who are trying to navigate the publishing industry?
There are many. I mean, if the thing I would advise the most is to take pleasure in the process. If you enjoy what you're doing, this will translate and let you endure even the days when you feel like nothing is going your way.
Mhm.
And I would also suggest, this might seem strange, but do not be too attached to your work. Just remember that it is something you have done, and it is not a sum of all who you are, because you are not just made of one book, you're made of many books. And if this one doesn't work, another one will. So if somebody says something really like, like, there will be people who will put your book down. Just remember that they're putting the work down, and you're always learning, and you will always get better, improve when you're writing, because writing is not something like, writing does come with talent, but more than talent, it's learning. You can learn to write a good book. You are not born with it.
Mhm.
No matter what people tell you. So yes, um make sure you have fun doing what you're doing. And two, don't be too attached to your walk. Just love your walk, but understand that it's not who you are.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you for that. I loved what you just said, that you're not made of one book, you're made of many. That's a great way to look at it. And our final fun question that we kind of try to ask everybody who does these Zoom interviews with us is, do you have any writing rituals, like listening to music or making a tea, lighting a candle, that sort of thing?
Okay, I didn't used to, but nowadays, maybe it's because I'm trying to procrastinate and not get into writing immediately. What I do is I have 3 Jolly Ranchers. It has to be three. Just get my brain working, and then I will play a word game on my phone. I'll just to make sure that, no, I'm just trying to procrastinate. So, but I tell myself is to make myself get the brain moving, get to me thinking about words. So
Yeah,
that's what I do.
that's awesome. Are there any particular three flavors of Jolly Ranchers?
No,
No?
I just need to have 3.
Okay. It's just the number.
Number.
That's awesome. Well, that was our last question. Thank you so much, Nafiza, for joining us here at Young Adulting. I've had a blast. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
Hey, thank you so much.